Welcome to the Ultimate Fuse Guide. Let's not waste any time and get straight into it. Fuse is a legend who, unlike many of the other legends in the game, is purely about DPS. While he is classified as an offensive legend, you should more so play him like a defensive legend, and that's something I'll get onto later into the video. So let's just go over his abilities real quick. His passive does two things. Lets you stack 2 grenades, while others will only have a stack of 1, i.e. you carry 2 Darkstars in 1 slot, Wraith will carry 1 in 1 slot. And this will allow you to throw grenades farther and more accurately. You will actually be able to throw your grenades 70% faster than any other legend, and you can actually see the arc that frags will bounce off of. His tactical is his Knuckle Cluster. This is an airburst grenade that can stick to surfaces or enemies. It explodes into multiple mini explosions for 1.5 seconds. Each charge has a 20-second charge time and will deal about 90 damage. His ultimate is the Mother Load. This is a mortar that encircles a target in a wall of fire and highlights enemies inside the radius. This has a 2-minute charge time with the fire lasting 17 seconds. Now that the basic overview of his abilities are done, we can go into the fine details of them and what truly makes Fuse the ultimate legend. So let's just start with the Knuckle Clusters. They will deal 10 damage upon staking them to someone. Like I said before, each cluster will do roughly 90 damage if the target will, stay in range the whole time and take it all for the whole 1.5 seconds. Single charge can be used to destroy doors, caustic traps, black markets, death totems, and ramparts amped cover. Now you can also, say you put a cluster charge net between 2 amped covers, it will destroy both of them. It's not limited to just one. Be careful when you're shooting them off around your teammates, as if they walk in front of you while you fire it off, it will bounce off into a random direction. This is usually harmless to them. You will take damage from your Knuckle Clusters while your teammates will not, so you can actually use that to your advantage. If they're, say, pushing someone in a building, you can fire a Knuckle Cluster in there. Your teammates will be unaffected while the team will be being shot up and exploded at the same time. Now, you can accurately fire the Knuckle Clusters up to around 275 meters from my testing. When aiming at long distances, you will see the arc disappear, but a faint dot will still show up where the cluster will land. His Knuckle Clusters are probably the best tactical daggers in the game. So with these, you can control the battlefield in a sense of where the enemy can hide or where they can run to. So you can shoot these in front of a team that's trying to run away, and they'll either have to run through taking damage, or they'll have to go to a different spot. Or say you have a team hiding behind a rock. You can shoot one on either side, forcing them to either move or take the damage. Either way, that will leave you an opening to attack them. This also is great at getting people out of windows, off ledges, and for those teams that like to hide in buildings, send some of those in there and they'll sure to go running. Now, the only true hard counter to Fuse will be Watson's ultimate, which will destroy incoming projectiles. Now, once you destroy that, you're fine. Gibby is kind of a hard counter. He kind of counters everyone with his bubble, especially with the buff he's getting, but we can get more into that later on how you can actually turn that against them. So let's get into his ultimate, which is both a great intel, damage dealer, and controlling device on the battlefield. So his ultimate can be fired up to 200 meters away. Now, you can also throw a grenade into the air and shoot it, which will expand the spread of the ring of fire to about 50-ish, 55 meters, or have the radius be about 55 meters, which is extremely big. That's big enough to cover most small buildings and even some of the larger buildings. Now, what this will do is it will allow you to actually see everyone for a full 17 seconds inside that building, where they move, and absolutely every little movement they do, whether they are batting, reloading, medding, reviving, it doesn't matter. You will see them highlighted, and they will not know where you are while you will know where they are. If the enemy is to touch the ring of fire, it will deal an initial 35 damage. Light the enemy on fire, which will cause a 5-second burn effect that will slow the player and deal 8 damage per second, or 12 damage per second if they sit in the fire, for a total of 75 damage, or 95 damage if you decide to remain in the fire. If the burn effect ends before the ultimate expires, touching the fire will do 35 damage again and reapply the burn effect. While touching the fire while burning will not cause 35 damage again. So if you're already burning, you can run in and out of that fire for very minimal additional damage. Now, your ultimate will not affect squad mates except for slightly slow them down when they pass through it, but it will affect you as Fuse. So fire is bad, don't touch it. Now, his ultimate isn't just offensive, it's actually a really good defensive tool. Say you are being pushed by a team and you need to heal. Well, you can use your ultimate just in front of you to make two little walls of fire which they are very hard to see through if you have your graphics turned up. Even on your low graphics, it's hard to see through at times, and it will prevent them from actually pushing in unless they have a Horizon or a Valkyrie who can go over the fire. This will give you enough time to heal or revive someone, or you can kind of use it as a makeshift Gibby bubble. Or if you have a Gibby, you can combine it with the two and just completely keep people from pushing you. You can also use it in the offensive way, like it's meant to encircle teams that are hiding behind rocks or small buildings. Doing so will completely trap them inside unless they want to take the damage. Now, late range, this becomes extremely powerful as no one wants to go out in the open or they will get focus fired. So you will either have a guaranteed kill by throwing your cluster charges, damaging them and pushing them, or they will run out in the open and get focus fired by everyone. Even so, if you miss your ultimate and it doesn't entrap anyone, you are still denying a huge area to the enemy from going into, as long as you're not doing the whole shooting the grenade, because then that leaves enough gaps for the enemy to go around the little fire artifacts. If you were to use this ultimate indoors, it will absolutely decimate anyone. It is kind of a mutually assured destruction unless your teammate is also in there. So if you are solo by yourself in a room and there are 3 enemies in there, go ahead, take your ultimate out and shoot it at the ceiling. You will definitely damage them. You might damage yourself. You might be able to get out. Either way, you're going to be dealing some damage. Now that his tactical and ultimate have been covered, we can get into what truly makes him powerful is his passive. Now, a lot of people play down his passive, the ability to hold more grenades than everyone else. So while others will hold 1 frag, you can hold 2. Now this is extremely powerful, especially late circle. Grenades are some of the most powerful thing in the game and will allow you to deal immense damage. So grenades, because they have a 4-second ignition time, you can't throw them that far. You can accurately throw them about 100 meters, 100 to 150 if you want to kind of airburst it on them and not bounce it. Now in throwing grenades, you will also see an extra arc if you are throwing it at a surface. Because you are throwing your grenades at a faster velocity than every other legend, the grenades will bounce more. You can use this to bounce grenades around corners, off walls, into the little corners of the room, or around shields. Now we get to the Thermites, which are great for denying areas to people. So with this, you can hold a stack of 2, like frags and Darkstars. With these, you can throw them roughly 150 meters to 200 meters and deny areas from rotations. So say you are chasing down a team, you can shoot some Thermites in front of them, prevent them, and force them to fight you. Now with this, because you can also stack 2 in 1 slot, running a rampage comes really well, as you will take up less slots for your Thermites to charge your gun and make it shoot extra fast. Darkstars, you can throw roughly 275 to 300 meters accurately. Darkstar's actual speed when leaving your hand is much faster than every other legend. So if you really like to stick people, make sure you keep it in the launching mode and not switching over to the hand thrown. Just to touch on that, you don't actually have to be launching them the whole time. You can switch over to the regular way of throwing grenades if you wish. I will only recommend that with grenades, as you can still just throw them straight up, have them come back down like normal, but that's the only time I really recommend doing it. Other than that, you should never ever hand throw Darkstars. Always launch them. They will go a lot faster. They travel at roughly the same speed as the cluster charge. You will also pick up 2 grenades instead of 1 when you are pulling them from Lobus Black Market. So always make sure you have plenty of nades with you. I would recommend carrying at least 3 stacks, 2 of each, or maybe 2 of a certain kind, whatever you wish. But always try and make sure you carry at least 2 stacks, as that is the equivalent of 4 spaces for normal legends. Now, like I said earlier, you should play Fuse like a defensive legend. The reason I say that is, as you now know, his passive and tactical are both long range abilities. They will allow you to throw grenades at longer distance or shoot your Knuckle Clusters at long distances. This is perfect for keeping enemies out of cover, giving you perfect times to take shots at them with marksman rifles or sniper rifles, dealing high amount of damage while staying at distance. While you can throw grenades at them, they can't throw them back, which is a huge deal, especially in late rings. The other reason why you should not be up close with him is your grenades will not affect your friendlies. So while you are stacked up on grenades, throwing them into buildings, burning enemies, arc-starring them, your teammates can go in, clean up the inside without taking any of the damage that you are throwing in. You can throw in 4 or 5 grenades. It will not affect your teammates, affect the enemies, and you can just clean house that way. Fuse is all about dealing damage from range. Now, you can run him up close, With that, if you're going to do that, I highly recommend running a Rampage, as you will be able to carry more Thermites than other legends and have them take up less space. So you can charge your Rampage more and almost constantly keep it charged, because Thermites are one of the more common grenades found. Now, Fuse is great at third partying, solely for the fact that you can launch your grenades in at a long distance into the two fighting teams. Now, normally you don't want to engage while the two teams are fighting, but because you can throw grenades 200-ish meters, you can launch them in without fully engaging your whole squad in the fight. So you will still have time to back off. Now, it can relieve an opening of where you can get a knock or two from frag grenades or arc stars, giving you an opening to come in and clean up not one but two squads. Now, the smaller the ring gets, the more powerful Fuse becomes, because as the playing area decreases, grenades become more viable as there's less places to run with cover. Not only that, but using your Motherload ability late ring will either force someone to take ring damage or push through the fire, and exposing where they are. Now, Fuse is a great counter to Caustic and Gibby players. Well, with your Knuckle Clusters, you can disable the Caustic traps, and if say there is a Gibby that is bubbling, if you are to get into the bubble and fire a Knuckle Cluster into the bubble, it will cover the whole radius inside. Now, this might change with the Season 12 buff/nerf Gibby is getting, increasing his bubble size, but it will force them to either stay inside the bubble and tank the damage, or leave the bubble entirely to your teammates who can sit inside of it without taking any damage from the Knuckle Clusters. Personally, I think Fuse is one of the greatest legends out there and is one of the more underrated legends, especially with Season 12, with Maggie coming out, who is supposed to be a direct counter to Gibby. Now that we've done a very detailed overview of Fuse and his abilities, we will move on to part 2, which is practical applications. Now, to keep videos from getting too long, I'm going to separate this into 2 different videos. This next video will be coming out next week. But if there is anything you think I missed in this video, please leave it below in the comments and I will pin them. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and remember, there's no such thing as too many grenades.